It's the year 1744, and no one knows much about the Rothschild family. They're just like many other Jewish families, facing discrimination. They were confined to a crowded neighborhood in Frankfurt where Jewish people were forced to live. However, all of that was about to change with the birth of Mayer Amschel Rothschild. This moment, the birth of Mayer, was about to change the future of the Rothschild family, and with that, the future of finance. This family would eventually rise to become one of the wealthiest and most powerful banking families in history. Their influence and investments would effectively shape a lot of modern history. In fact, no government in Europe and America would make any kind of high-level decisions without their counsel. So how did they go from such humble beginnings to such an influential position? That's exactly what we'll talk about in today's video. In case you're new here, welcome to History Meets Finance. In this channel, we talk about history and finance. We make interesting videos every single week about the story of money. We'll dive deep into topics like the origins of bankruptcy or how accounting worked in medieval times. So please do subscribe if you're new here to enjoy weekly videos where we go deep into the history of money. Alright, let's get back to the Rothschilds. In 1744, Mayer Amschel Rothschild was born in Germany. Originally, he was intending to become a priest, but then his parents' untimely death forced him to leave his studies and join the world of finance. He decided to take up an apprenticeship in a banking house. And let's just say he had a knack for finance. He was successful and eventually became a court factor to a powerful noble. By the way, a court factor is a Jewish banker who handled the finances for nobility. But you see, this was a precarious position at that time. It depended a lot on the goodwill of the lord and the lord's ability to protect the court factor from the mob. You see, it's very unfortunate, but many successful financiers before Mayer had lost their wealth through violence like this. And Mayer was absolutely determined to make sure that he didn't face the same fate. That's why he did two things. Number one, he didn't tie his wealth to any tangible assets that could be easily seized, for example, real estate. Instead, he invested in highly liquid instruments such as stocks, bonds, and debts. And number two, using his connections that he established at court, he sent his 5 sons to become bankers in other countries. So this way, he managed to effectively grow his wealth while being impervious to local attacks on the Jewish people, which unfortunately was very prevalent back then. It also helped that he vastly expanded his family's business opportunities in other countries. His investments and diversification in other countries through his sons meant that he could lend money to warring lords, coordinate international trading and investment ventures, and move money around to whichever markets were most lucrative. You see, the Rothschilds ended up finding their greatest opportunities during the Napoleonic Wars. This was basically a series of wars between France and shifting alliances between other European powers back then. The Rothschilds had quite a bit of wealth at that point, and their European-wide network of agents, traders, and shippers meant that they were perfectly equipped to help with financing the war effort with various countries that allied against France. They were also buying up large quantities of gold at this point, expecting the war to be long and drawn out, which would massively boost their wealth. However, there was a risk. No one had expected that the war with Napoleon would be over this quickly. The vast gold that they accumulated with helping financing the war effort now started to drop in price. So now the Rothschilds were sitting on top of a pile of gold that was needed for a war that was effectively over. But then they decided on a brilliant financial move. Nathan was Mayer Rothschild's son, and he worked in the UK, and Nathan ended up buying a significant amount of government bond during that time. And then they waited. With the war now over and therefore reduced government borrowing, the family expected that the bond prices would eventually rise. And they were right. This happened 2 years later in 1817, when Nathan was able to sell these bonds at a hefty 40% profit. Flushed with cash, and now with Europe in a long period of relative peace and experiencing rapid industrialization, the Rothschilds were primed to dominate the financial and business markets of the 19th century. From then on, the family just started to make wiser and smarter investments. As the century progressed, the family became synonymous with opulence and material abundance. They resided in vast palaces that rivaled those of kings and emperors in London, Paris, Vienna, and other European capitals. Different branches of the family were based in various parts of Europe, with strong alliances with those respective governments and royal bodies. They were thriving across the continent. But like we all know, when there is a rise, there is also a fall. Over time, one by one, the various branches of the Rothschild dynasty began to suffer a decline. For instance, in Italy, following its unification, their family house had to close down because of mounting tensions with the new nationalist government. Many decades later, the annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany would lead to the Rothschild family fleeing abroad, selling their assets and businesses at a fraction of their cost. The French family branch was doing comparatively better. However, in 1982, they also suffered setbacks as their businesses became nationalized by the French government, which meant that the family lost a lot of control. The only family branch to have survived the 20th century relatively unscathed were in England. That's why most of the remaining billionaires from the Rothschild family are also from England. Despite their dip in wealth over the course of history, the family still remains among the richest today. According to one estimate, the entire Rothschild family is worth a staggering 1.2 trillion US dollars. But even greater than their wealth has been their legacy. And this goes beyond just pioneering international high finance. In fact, during the Napoleonic Wars, funds from the family actually helped to pay British troops, almost single-handedly financing the war effort. Beyond that, their finances helped with the construction of the Suez Canal, the expansion of railways and road networks in Europe and America, the independence of Brazil from Portugal, and the establishment of many prominent businesses today, such as the De Beers Company. Now, the Rothschild family had a significant impact on the world, but does that mean that they only did good work and they had an unscathed reputation? Absolutely not. We're going to explore that in a separate video, but it's worth noting that the Rothschild dynasty undeniably revolutionized the world of finance. Their financial strategies, global network, and their ability to navigate complex political landscapes elevated them from discriminated commoners to being one of the most powerful dynasties in Europe. Now, like I said before, there are a lot of controversies around their name, but there is no denying the profound impact that this family had on shaping the business and political landscape of the 19th century. They left behind a legacy that still resonates till today. If you like this video, I'm sure you're gonna like this video that I made about the impact of the East India Company on the world. So check it out here, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next one.